Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
This is KRWG, TV, radio, online, news that matters. Now, across the Mesilla Valley and the borderland, the stories that shape our community. From the KRWG Broadcast Center at New Mexico State University, this is Newsmakers.
Up front this week, an El Paso native is back home, sharing his expertise at UTEP. Anthony Moreno introduces us to astronaut Danny Olivas.
El Paso native Danny Olivas was an astronaut on the Space Shuttle Atlantis and Discovery, and now he's sharing his expertise in a mission with the University of Texas at El Paso. But his career dates back to childhood, 7 years old to be exact.
7.
Was there a specific moment, or just that you saw something on TV? Or?
No, actually, I was on a family vacation with my parents, and we were in Houston, Texas, and they had taken me to go see all these really cool things. We went to the Astrodome, went to Astro World, which is an amusement park they used to have there, Gulf of Mexico, but the thing that really resonated with me is we went to Johnson Space Center.
Olivas says it took some time to get to space, including just getting into NASA.
To get into NASA, I started in 1988, and I finally got an interview in 1997. So 9 years of applying. And then I got into the program.
As his NASA career progressed, Olivas not only was flying into space, but also was assigned to be a spacewalker.
And never having done a spacewalk, I'd never been in space. I was a rookie, so everything was brand new to me. Had to learn everything. The crew that actually had been formed, STS-117, had actually been in place prior to Columbia. But because of Columbia and then delays that occurred and moving around of personnel, a slot was made available on 117 as they staffed up a subsequent flight, and I was inserted into that crew. So they had a bunch of guys who already knew a lot about what they were going to do, and I had to play a lot of catch up.
Olivas says he remembers what the feeling was like on his first launch day.
Please God, don't let me screw up. That's all I cared about. I don't want to screw up. You train so much that you feel very confident actually heading out to the pad. You know what you need to do, and you've rehearsed it time and again. By the time you go to the launch pad on launch day, so first off, you hope to launch when you're supposed to launch, and depending on weather, depending on conditions, depending on the vehicle, sometimes you don't really know it's going to actually take off until the main engines fire up. And even then you're not even guaranteed, because they had a mission where they shut down the main engines before the solid rocket boosters lifted off. Anyway, but no, I think there's a level of, you're a professional, it's your job, it's what you've trained your life to do. And at least I approached it from a perspective that I've got to go do my job now.
Olivas remembers what it was like when he was in space and took his first look at the Earth. He says he felt a deep appreciation for everyone who helped him along the way, and he wished he could share that moment.
There's nothing in the world that comes close to being able to describe what you see from orbit, around our globe. Pictures and videos don't do justice. And you want to bottle it up and you want to bring it back home, but you can't. You want to share it with the people that are close to you, and you want to be able to give them that experience. And so there's a little bit of a disappointment in not being able to do that, because it's just the most phenomenal experience that I think a human being can ever have, is to be someplace where God never made us to live there, but yet we're there.
When it was time for him to complete his spacewalk, Olivas also had to install the first solar panels on the International Space Station. After that, he says he remembered having a moment to take it all in.
And it was beautiful because it was a nighttime pass and I was over the Indian Ocean. And I knew it was because I could see the coastline of India all the way out to Myanmar. And it was so distinct, it was like looking at a map. You know, and then I rotated out and I looked out into space, you know, and you get the sense of isolation, but also the sense, the enormity of the vastness of the universe. And it's only things that we can see with our eyeballs, and it goes much further than that.
Olivas says it was a bittersweet moment when the space shuttle was retired.
I was proud to have had an opportunity to serve in the program while the space shuttle was the space shuttle program. And I kind of wish the hurrah that people were willing to come out and see as the space shuttle flew on top of the shuttle carrier aircraft had been there the entire time. I mean, I was in LA when Space Shuttle Endeavour landed in Los Angeles International Airport, and every freeway was stopped. People were standing on a freeway outside their cars, taking pictures. People were waving, people were crying, people had American flags, and they were all excited. And I appreciate that they understand and can appreciate that it is a representation of what we've done as a country. However, if every shuttle flight had that level of enthusiasm, I think our leaders might understand and appreciate the value more of what spaceflight can do. I mean, spaceflight is the only, think about it, spaceflight is the only investment that our government makes that is focused on the positive. It's focused on the future.
From watching the stars with his father to walking in space, Danny Olivas says he's grateful for those who helped him get there, from his father to a college professor, his wife, and the many amazing people at NASA. For KRWG, I'm Anthony Moreno.
From an astronaut to a high-flying teacher, as Michael Hernandez reports, a Deming math instructor is being called one of the nation's best educators, and she received a $25,000 prize, along with a big celebration to mark the achievement.
The Milken Educator Award goes to Melanie Alfaro.
When 6th grade math teacher Melanie Alfaro sat at a school assembly at Deming Intermediate School, she had no idea she was about to be named the guest of honor. Neither did the school. Officials from the Milken Family Foundation paid a visit to Deming to surprise Alfaro with a $25,000 prize as part of this year's Milken Educator Awards. The foundation gives the honor to fewer than 50 of the country's top teachers each year. Alfaro says she was extremely overwhelmed to receive the award.
I don't know if you saw me, but I just kind of buckled down in tears because I could not comprehend what I was understanding the severity of the award, but when they called my name, I was just like, wow, overwhelmed and honored.
The awards have been hailed by Teacher Magazine as the Oscars of teaching. Milken Senior Vice President Dr. Jane Foley, who was a 1994 Milken Award winner herself, says the committee looks for special criteria when selecting a teacher. That includes finding teachers in their early or mid-careers who are leaders and unsung heroes.
And you can see by the reaction of the students when they stand and they're cheering and they're stomping, she's a role model. We're looking for someone who's a role model and really influences everyone around them.
Teachers cannot apply or be nominated for the honor, and the award is a secret until it's announced. Christopher Ruskowski heads up the New Mexico Public Education Department and attended the assembly as a distraction for the real ceremony.
It was a fun day to be the decoy, but we were here to celebrate Melanie and how exemplary she is and how outstanding she is.
Ruskowski says Alfaro is a model example for improving student learning and achievement.
When you have an exemplary teacher that's getting student results, that has a voice in policy, and that is a leader in her community, that changes the conversation for our entire state, takes us out of a negative place and puts us into a positive place.
Alfaro is the head of the math department at the Deming Intermediate School. Milken says she, quote, immerses her students in data, setting individual and whole class goals, charging students with monitoring their own progress, and holding family classes to ensure parents are fully equipped to support their children's efforts in math. Milken notes that Deming has jumped 2 letter grades and 16 percentage points in end-of-year math assessments in the past few years. Alfaro now joins more than 2,700 educators who have received the award since 1987. She also wins a trip to Washington, D.C. to meet with other Milken winners and come up with ways to further impact students and prepare them for the future.
I do it because of you guys, because I love children, and I love having an impact on every single one of your lives. From the kids I taught 10 years ago to those of you who are in my room right now, I do it because of you, and I want you to remember that. I love all of you.
Alfaro says when she started in the field, she wanted to be the kind of teacher she would like her own children to have. She says being recognized reassures her that the work she does in the classroom is paying off.
It gives me a little comfort knowing that I am making a difference in these kids' lives. And that is my goal in teaching, is just to come in every day and try to make a difference in their lives.
Alfaro's math students say they enjoy having her as a teacher and were happy when she won.
She makes it very exciting, and she has posters, and it's very fun that we get to learn, and she really takes patience. She really has patience with us, and she's just a great math teacher, and I think she really deserves it.
While education is her top priority, Alfaro says her job has always been to teach her students more than just numbers and equations.
You know, I want to teach them about life. I want to teach them about giving back, teaching them about being good people. And when they walk away from me, I just want them to have a positive reflection on who Miss Alfaro was when they leave my classroom.
1, 2, 3.
For KRWG, I'm Michael Hernandez.
Hello and welcome to In Focus. I'm Anthony Moreno. KRWG News is interviewing candidates who have announced that they are seeking the 2nd Congressional District seat in New Mexico. Joining us in studio is Mad Hildebrandt. She is seeking the 2nd Congressional District seat as a Democrat. Mad, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, I'd like to hear why you are seeking this seat, and if you could also share a little bit about yourself with our audience, please.
Yes, I am a veteran. I spent a couple of years in the Coast Guard, and when I got out, I used my GI Bill and a lot of student loans, and I went to school, and I got a bachelor's degree in history, and I really liked it. I continued going. I got a master's and then a PhD, all in U.S. history, and now I teach college classes online and at a college in New Jersey. But since my husband was still military, we traveled around a lot for the last 30 years. He spent 30 years in, so I put all my classes online so that I could continue to teach. And I did teach for a little while here in New Mexico at what was then Albuquerque TVI. It's now Central New Mexico. I've never really been a political player, so I'm kind of an outsider. The only actual politics that I really engaged in was at the local level. At the high schools and middle schools, I worked with the steering committees, that sort of thing. And then when John Kerry was running for president, I liked him, and we lived in Northern California, and there was nobody up there that was supporting him at that time, so I decided to organize for him as a volunteer, and then I was one of his delegates. So that's been what I've done, but I felt that I had to get involved when Donald Trump won the presidency, and he started talking about the swamp and all of that, and yet he started
You're
putting...
referring to draining the swamp.
Draining the swamp, and then I was watching the people that he was putting in there that I felt were maybe still swamp-like. And then he started talking about sending people back across the border. So there is one event that actually made me decide that I was going to run. And I was in our local Walmart, and I was shopping, and this mother passed me with a shopping cart and a little girl that was maybe 3 or 4 in that cart. And the little girl suddenly just started crying and was just really looked upset, like I thought she had been pinched in the shopping cart, and so did the mother. And so the mother asked her what was wrong, and the little girl says to her mother, she says, "Mama, is mi abuelita going to be home when we get home?" And the mother says, "Of course she's going to be. Why wouldn't she be?" And this little girl says to her, she says, "Because she's from Mexico." And I knew at that minute that I had to do something, because no little girl, no little child that's 3 or 4 or even 15 should be thinking these things.
So is immigration, a top issue and a reason why you are seeking this seat?
It is a top issue to begin with, yes, that caused me to feel this way. And so for DACA and just for immigration in general, and so DACA is a program that I am really supporting DACA.
The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program that
Yes.
was implemented under the Obama administration.
Yes, and I think it's imperative that we keep our dreamers in our country and safe. That these children and some are, young adults, are going through our schools. A lot of them don't know that they aren't U.S. citizens until they go to get a driver's license or to go to college. And some of my best students are dreamers. And I feel that it's really important that these kids have a path to citizenship and not have this thought that they could be sent home. I cannot imagine sending a girl alone who's 18 or 19 and send her to the country of her birth without parents, without anybody, just because she got picked up somewhere. I can't see that happen. And so what I want to do, one of the first things I want to do is put together a program, and I'm really watching what's happening now to see if we're going to keep our dreamers here.
Let's talk about what's happening now
Okay.
with this. Recently, the minority leader in the House, Nancy Pelosi, Senator Chuck Schumer have announced that they have struck a deal with President Trump on DACA that includes an increase in border security. Now, this struck a chord with a lot of immigration advocate groups who are frustrated with the militarization of what they say is the militarization of border communities.
Right.
And I'd like to hear your thoughts on how you would address this issue if elected to this seat, and do you see a way that DACA can be saved and immigration reform can be saved without striking fear in immigrant communities?
What I would like to see is a semi-permeable borders on both sides, and I know this seems pretty far out there, but along the lines of the EU, where we can allow people who are working in whichever country to come across the borders. And I spoke with a lady who runs a dairy, and she can't get enough workers to do her job, to fill the positions that she has. And I spoke with a man who is a landscaper, and this summer he was not able to get enough people to help him cut trees. So he had to break some contracts because he couldn't take care of that. Because people here in the United States so often don't want to do those jobs that are hard to do. And they need to be fulfilled by the people that want to fill those positions, and these people are coming across the border. And we do need to strengthen our Coast Guard. We need to strengthen Border Patrol. We need to keep those things because there are, terrorists, there are drug people bringing drugs across the border. And so we do need to catch that. But we also have to allow people to come and go across the border in order to fill these jobs. And I don't see that there's a reason we can't do that we can't do both.
All right, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you feel are some of the other top issues that are facing this district. It's such a large district. here in District 2 in southern New Mexico.
Right, and one of those I think is education, and education is the basis of our economy, of our entire way of life in this country. And when we're watching what's happening with the budget and the idea that we would be doing the vouchers and sending this money to private schools. Now, private schools are fine. Private schools serve a purpose. But what happens with these vouchers, and we can look in Michigan and see what has happened with the vouchers, is that it isn't making education better than it already is. And our public schools are important to our children and to our communities. And if we are taxing people and then putting these things into vouchers, and then the vouchers are being used to support schools, private schools that aren't in our local rural communities. And most of our district is rural. So these people are still going to be paying, their taxes. And now this is going into a voucher, and the vouchers are going to these private schools. But the children who are still in those towns aren't going to have a private school. What private school is going to be building a school in a small community where you have 40 kids? But so what's going to happen to those children? The money is being pulled out of their schools. So those schools are going to be in danger, and those schools are going to close. And then those children, and this is the worst case scenario thing I've heard, is that these children are going to be taking their classes online because the school is going to be 100 miles away.
One of the things that I noticed on your website was that you say you are a different type of Democrat. What do you mean by that?
I am a veteran. I was Shore Patrol, which is an MP, and so I am a Second Amendment person. I have guns, and people in our district do have guns. And so I am not somebody that's going to say we have to get rid of all guns. There is going to be good legislation that somebody that has psychological issues, say, should not have access to guns. So that's where I'm seeing the line for me, because I don't intend to let anyone come and get my guns, so I'm not going to let anybody come and get anyone else's guns either, as long as I can do something about that.
All right, Mad. Well, thank you very much for joining us on In Focus. I want to thank you for taking the time here and sharing a little bit about your candidacy.
Well, thank you very much.
And we want to thank you for joining us for In Focus. Remember, you can always keep up with us on social media, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at KRWG. I'm Anthony Moreno. Thanks for joining us.
Don't you listen now, baby, when I sing. We a little bit older now, but we all just the same. Actually, when I was a little kid, my mom sang. She sang country, and I would just, she always had a guitar. I never touched the guitar, though, because I thought it was magic, literally. And I still do to this day, and I believe that more now, as a matter of fact. But I didn't really pursue it until I met my now wife in '97. I met this girl, and she had a guitar, and she taught me how to play. She taught me chords and how to just get around, and I just kind of took it from there. There's something basic and kind of primal about it that makes everybody just let go and have a good time. It turns everybody into a country boy, and it's not always sad. Doesn't have to be sad. The style that I've been working on over the few years is called, it's based on North Mississippi Hill Country Blues, which is kind of a party blues, dance blues. It makes people, you know, just have a good time. I told her, don't you worry about me, baby, cause I still got my guitar. It's called Music Spotlight. It was my first time actually getting kind of in front of a camera, kind of in a studio environment. But it was really good for me in terms of people hearing my name and my music. It was really cool. It was a good experience. People today still come up and go, "Hey, I saw you on that KRWG thing, man. That music spotlight." And now with, you know, like Netflix and Apple TV and all that, you can just click on it and find it again, or YouTube, you know. So it actually did a lot for me, and I'm really thankful for that too. It was fun. I have a website, cwion.com, and there are links on there to a website called cdbaby.com, where you can purchase music. CD Baby distributes globally, so it is on every Spotify, Pandora, Bandcamp.com, where I've got all my albums. You can purchase them there, listen to them there. It's on iTunes, so it's available digitally pretty much anywhere. You can come to a show, and I've got CDs of the new CD. I'm out of print on all my older stuff. The newest one I'm really liking, it's called Starkweather, but I like them all. My first one had a different vibe. It started out sounding like the White Stripes, kind of more rock and punk and stuff, and as I got better at putting my own songs together, it became bluesier and rootsier. So they were all my favorite at that time, but at the moment now I think it's probably between this one, Starkweather, and an older one called Lomador. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that it's a waste of time. That's kind of what motivated me to quit my job, my day job, because I was starting to get calls for music, and I just didn't want to be the bitter old guy that said, "Man, I should have tried that." It's probably one of the best decisions I ever made. I'm really glad I did it, because I'm happy. I don't come home angry from work and all that, you know, just, so it's really good. It's good for me and my family. Music's like the great equalizer when, you know, people get in a discussion, an argument or something, and then some music comes on and it just kind of wipes it away, you know. I think that I can say I've taken away that music is powerful and magical.
That's our time for now. Join us this week on KRWG Radio. Every weekday, it's Morning Edition, 5 to 9, Fresh Air at 11, followed by Here and Now, noon to 2, and All Things Considered, 4 to 7. KRWG News is always online at krwg.org, and we'd love to hear from you. Email us with your story ideas and video submissions. The address is feedback@nmsu.edu. For all of us at KRWG News, I'm Fred Martino. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.